Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to a nearly empty room here. Before we get started, we would like everybody to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, first up on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the Board of Selectmen meeting of February 27th, 2020, which was our first ever night meeting. Is there?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Those minutes are approved. First, Selectmen's updates. If anyone is here for the Riversville Road parking proposal? Nobody? Okay, good. Chief Marino, Deputy Chief Marino, and DPW engineer Gabrielle Cohen are upstairs holding a meeting in the Cohen room on this right now. So looks like no one's here, so that's okay. Update on the coronavirus. I don't know if you've read in the paper, I closed the senior center last week indefinitely. I think, according to the Hartford Current, that may have been the first one in the state, but we're vulnerable in the sense we're really close to a center that's really unfortunately been affected, and that's the Westchester County. So we've done that. I've restricted, as of yesterday, out-of-state travel for town employees, and we're going out of town, out of state on business, and we'll be reassessing the in-state travel for town employees. Spoke with the governor this morning on the phone, and we'll be working we're on conference calls with him all the time, but we will talk personally going regularly. He did wanted you to know that he is quite concerned about the federal stockpile, and the feds right now seem to be going by state and looking to deliver those goods disperse them by a state rather than by region. And his point, which Dan Warzoa had brought up yesterday, I thought was well taken, is in that we're right next to New Rochelle, which right now, as you all know, has been really affected by it. And we would need it here, Fairfield County, which is going to be a main center here in Connecticut, that people are going to get it here probably before the rest of Connecticut. And it's a regional thing. We really need to access those supplies, where maybe some remote areas of New York, maybe not so much right now. So he's really pushing on that, and I support him 100% in his endeavors. I am going to be reaching out to the independent boards and commissions of town government later today to ask them to look at their meeting schedules in the coming weeks and months. Look at what's absolutely necessary, what can be done remotely, what could be postponed, and if you have to have a meeting, which you have to, government needs to go on. In what way do you deliver them to minimize exposure? Certainly, as you all are practicing right now, social distancing. As you look around the room, everybody's spread out, and it's not just you, Ken. It's.
I just don't like interacting with people. I'm in the wrong line of work.
So, but don't take offense to it today. It's not you. Oh, I just left my office. They're still meeting now, department heads. Going over a plan. We are going to be, in addition to the weekly e-blasts I send out on Fridays, which we'll update you on this, on COVID-19, but we're also going to direct people to our website Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for updates throughout the week. So people will be able to hear the latest, not only on the CDC, but updates from universities like Johns Hopkins that are being very helpful. And received an email this morning from a resident who brought my attention to the Bloomberg philanthropies that are now availing themselves to all CEOs of municipalities around the country, just to give you information, the latest information. So it's another tool that we could have to access information that will help us going forward. We don't want people to panic. It's, we're just trying to be realistic. It's, you're not stopping this right now, but you could slow it down and using common sense and, try not to shake hands if you can. Wash your hands after you touch any touchable surfaces. Treat every touchable surface really as a possibly contaminated one. In all our town buildings, you will be seeing these two posters. All right, we had a bunch of other ones that are already up, but we want to simplify it. Just brings your attention to stop and, common sense things, but if you're, at the end of the day, if you're not feeling well, please just stay home. We will get through this. I spoke to a couple local banks this morning about possibly setting up low-interest loans for businesses right now that may be having a tough time and that will experience some tough times in this economic downturn, just to get them through it. They were very receptive to the idea. Spoke with another a resident this morning who will be working with me on maybe a public-private entity to help with this also, and also to be advising people and businesses on how to best survive something like this. I was in the gym this morning, and it's real. It was not even half full. It was probably a quarter full. And so, people are taking notice, which is great, and they're taking precautions, but also we do have to remember that there are businesses that are going to be affected by this. So I'd love for everybody to go about their normal business, to do it in a way that's with extra caution. So we will be communicating with you if you have any questions at all. Just please reach out to our office. The lead agency in Connecticut is Department of Public Health. The lead agency here is the Department of Health. But we will be certainly getting out the word almost on a daily basis here from the Office of the First Selectman. Yesterday we met with the Chamber of I met with the Chamber of Commerce, the boards, the directors, Pat Sesto and I. We reviewed the first 100 days, lots of initiatives. Pat was there to talk about lots of the environmental ones, including the Pay-As-You-Throw initiative, the food scraps that are going to be starting in April, and the textile program, which will be free. And we'll have like 5 or 6 spots around the town designated for drop-off, so people can drop off their textiles and for nothing, and reduce that waste and the bill that we will all have to pay soon. On March 5th, we conducted interviews with 3 finalists for the executive director position at Nathaniel Witherall. They were all very, very good candidates. We will be selecting someone very soon, but we're excited to see some of the ideas there to help turn the fiscal condition of that facility around. And we will be interviewing the finalists for the candidate for a labor relations specialist next Tuesday. So with that, I will turn it over to my right to Selectwoman Rabin for her updates.
Thanks, Fred. Some of my updates seem like a moot point with everything that's going on with the virus. You mentioned talking to the boards and commissions about their meeting. I'm working with Barbara. We have about 30 people that we need to interview over the next 2 months for vacancies on boards and commissions and reappointments. So we'll have to see how that flows or doesn't flow. I too am excited about the food scrap program. So I want to remind people over the next 3 Saturdays, you can pick up your kits for $20 at Sam Bridges. I believe it's like from 9 to 1 each Saturday. Fred, you mentioned first 100 days. all three of us, the Board of Selectmen, have been invited to the Round Hill Community Center by the Round Hill Association and the League of Women Voters to do a Q&A panelist type presentation of our three first 100 days. So looking forward to that if it doesn't get canceled. And I've been getting a lot of texts and messages from the community to try to volunteer with schools being closed and 20% of our children on free and reduced lunch. Do we have a mechanism? And we've got volunteers. So maybe, Fred, during your daily updates, we should try to talk about a more connected volunteer effort. Same thing with the seniors that relied on lunch every day at the senior center. I know a lot of them would take the lunch, and it also became their dinner that night as well. So something else to think about and try to coordinate. And that's my update.
Thank you.
Question?
When is that Q&A scheduled for?
May 3rd from 3 to 5.
Okay, and then we go over to Selectwoman Oberlander.
Thank you, Fred. Good morning. Yeah, similar to Fred and Lauren, I've been fielding a lot of questions on town preparedness and other issues regarding the coronavirus. If you do have questions and you're not getting answers on the website, please do reach out to us as a filter for information. The Department of Human Services has been working with the Commission on Aging to make sure that are vulnerable in the community, the people that are either food insecure or are at home, are being contacted, have a plan in place. If you know of someone that you're concerned about, please reach out to those departments. They'll have their case managers reach out as well, so that we're making sure people are connected. They're working with Neighbor to Neighbor and some of their other organizations to make sure that there are supplies and transportation. And again, I guess on the volunteer front, there may be a need for volunteers to do some deliveries and some training. We would need to train them. So please stay tuned on that. We're working on that as well. Similarly, the Sustainability and Enhancement Committee has been moving forward. We've approved a statement of purpose. We're working on the next steps. So on the environmental programs, stay tuned as well.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. To old business, we, as I mentioned earlier, that the proposed charter and code change regarding Riversville Road is put off again this week, but we'll be hearing more about that from Deputy Chief Marino. To new business, requests for detours on Havemeyer Lane and Ladders Rock Road, Sal Longo of Tata and Howard for a clearing. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sal Longo. I'm with the firm of Tate and Howard, and I'm the design engineer for the Havemeyer Lane pump station and the water main that's going to supply the station. So we're here today to present a proposed detour that's required to allow installation of the water mains, a suction and discharge water main in Ladders Rock Road, as well as a one-block closure of Havemeyer Lane when work is being done in the intersection. We presented these proposed detours to both the DPW, Fire, Police, and Board of Ed Transportation. One of the concerns is on Ladders Rock Road, there is a school bus depot. So people are concerned with that, and the current solution is to do that in the summer while the school is off session. So we'll close Ladders Rock Road there, and we're detouring the traffic. As you can see, the section of Ladders Rock that's closed, this is blue portion right here. And any traffic that would go either north or south would be rerouted through Sound Beach Avenue or into Stanford down Harvard Avenue. This plan has been presented to the Stanford Traffic Advisory Committee, And that's why you see two lines here. They asked us that we move this detour line to Howard Avenue. They felt that would be a little less disruptive to the traffic flow in their community. But that's what
And the detour is only from the Post Road south on Ladden's Rock, so we're gonna keep traffic flowing from the neighborhoods to the south out to the Post Road, so that it's only a one-directional detour.
no,
So you'll take a left down there, to go by where the Civic Center is, and then out to Harvard, around the back there. How long is this project and this detour, do you envision it lasting?
the Ladden's Rock detour, we're estimating 4 to 6 weeks
Okay.
to get the main installed, pressure tested, and repaved.
Thanks, Sal. And the work that will be done during day or at night or a combination?
Daytime.
Daytime?
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so 8 to 4,
Yeah.
okay.
I guess there is the option to allow the contractor to work a longer day and potentially shrink the window that they need to be out there.
Yeah, it's always usually an option unless there's blasting involved in their residential neighborhood, and then,
Yeah.
then the calls start coming.
Yeah, if we did do test holes in Ladden's Rock, we went down 10 feet and did not encounter rock. So hopefully
surprised.
hopefully that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a lot of rock there, too. I'm surprised, but that's
Yeah.
good news. And you're also going to be going north of the Post Road there between Wendell and the Post Road there, about what, 600 feet?
Yes,
Okay, and that's, and then the detour there would be
the traffic coming south and
on
northbound.
Wessel's Place?
Yeah, is it,
You're talking about the Havemeyer?
Yes,
closure?
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. These will be going on at the same time? No?
No.
Okay.
No, it's going to be, like I said, I think what I noticed in my letter, this facility is very critical to your
Right.
water supply system. So we have to be very careful when we take it off. And Aquarium's going to evaluate reservoir levels and demands to make that decision. So we can't touch anything in the intersection until that station is taken offline.
Okay.
So in the summer, we'll work from here south, get all this in place, and once we can take that offline, then we'll do the intersection work.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's a busy one there, so you'd have to break it up.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so we're gonna maintain one lane of traffic in either direction, and then close westbound lanes, and then when we swap over, just flip it over.
And that would be the same thing when you go to the second part of it during the day? And
Yes.
And the duration of that one would be?
DOT has said 8:30 to 4.
Okay, and as far as the duration, as far as the time for that part of it?
We're saying 2 to 3 weeks,
Okay.
is our guess.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I had some questions about that as well. I'm trying to understand it. So you indicated in your memo that the best time to do the work is either in the spring or in the fall, yet you're planning on doing the work in the summer? Can you maybe explain that?
Yes, the summer work is in Ladden's Rock, which will not impact the operation of the station, the existing station, that can continue operating.
So you're doing the work before you take it offline?
A portion of the work, yes.
Right.
The-
And do you
yeah.
have to do a two-way road closure? Can you do it as can you just take out one lane? So in the summertime, that's a highly trafficked area, and the detour as well, you're pushing more people through to Sound Beach Avenue, which is, we have DPW here, they can give us more of an idea. The traffic counts, it's a very, as people access the beach and the waterfront, it's a pressure point of traffic, and it's also a recreational route for some of the local road races and bike races and things like that. So I'm wondering really, are there alternatives that would be less onerous on the community?
I guess as Chris pointed out, the northbound traffic would stay on the road. It'd just be the southbound that would have to
Are you
detour.
focused on Ladden's Rock? Yes. The Ladden's Rock closure? So, right, so when they're doing that, right, so when they're doing that work for the 4 to 6 weeks, right,
Right.
in Ladden's Rock, you'll be able to get out of the neighborhood. So we looked at traffic volumes, and there's about 6,000 cars per day on Ladden's Rock and about 400 per hour, both directions. So you start to like get lower and lower numbers. You're talking about a couple hundred cars over the.
What period of time did you look at it? Did you look at it in the summertime? Or you looked at it in
We just gathered data that was available to just understand kind of how much volume is on that street. And it's Ladden's Rock, so we weren't looking at all of the other potential corridors. And as I said, we're keeping traffic flowing out of kind of the residential area up to the Post Road as an outlet. So we're not detouring all of the traffic that's getting in there.
keeping one lane
We're keeping
open
northbound open
the entire time?
the entire time.
And would there be the ability to have, sometimes when there's work on the roads, they do have two-way traffic through one lane?
That was discussed with DPW, and there was concern that traffic could back up in the intersection. So they kind of got pushed aside.
The interest was to kind of not have severely adverse impacts on the Post Road while we're doing work in Ladden's Rock. So that was the suggestion, was to just close that piece and do it quicker under a closure versus trying to do pieces in small chunks that would just extend the duration of the work. So that was,
So the closure of Ladden's Rock is not what's going to affect Sound Beach, it's when you do the Post Road part, the detour to Sound Beach.
well, it's the closure of Ladden's Rock, so you won't be able to go south on Ladden's Rock into the residential areas to the south. So you'll have to either, if you were heading towards Stanford on the Post Road, and you typically took a right and went down Ladden's Rock, you would self-divert likely after encountering it once and, just go down Sound Beach into the neighborhood. Or vice versa, if you're coming from Stanford, you would self-divert after discovering it closed once and, find an alternate route.
We're not voting on this tonight, I just received it.
I believe we are voting on this tonight.
That was the intent, was to
Well,
approve.
I don't see any, issue. All when there's nighttime hours near neighborhoods, that's where it really gets to be an issue. But I don't see any of that here. I live in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Well, we have DPW here, maybe they could speak to this project as well, and what kind of community outreach you've done, given that this is a community that we've heard from on other projects as well.
Good morning. We have had a few different meetings with Aquarian about this project, and we've involved police in the matter to talk about the intersection, and we feel that the plan that they have presented now is probably the best option for the work that needs to be done, the safest for the traveling public, with trying to maintain alternating one lane of traffic would be extremely difficult, especially with the traffic signal at Route 1 and the volumes of traffic on Route 1. It just, we felt that it's probably best, in everybody's best interest, to have it one directional there. We do understand there is going to be impacts to the areas. Even with traffic for the beaches and so forth on Sound Beach Avenue, the volumes are slightly less over the summer time frame than they are throughout this, normally when the school year is in session. So I think it's a mixture of people on vacations and stuff like that. So we would agree that it's going to have some impacts, and we have been working with them and felt that they've been good about working with us on the timing and stuff.
So what's the, do you recall the traffic flow on Sound Beach? I know you've looked at this a number of times, or different
Traffic flow, meaning the volumes?
The volume, yeah.
So there's approximately, near the traffic circle at, near the Pratt Library, there's about 14,000 vehicles a day at that location currently on Sound Beach Avenue. On the stretch of Route 1 near this section, there's actually less vehicles. There's like 12,800, so comparable volumes. And like they mentioned, and these are based upon published numbers that DOT has on their website for various times that they take them. So.
Did I hear 6,000? Was that your average? Was that, am I remembering that correctly? What was your average traffic count daily on Ladens Rock?
Yeah, so DOT data, published data was approximately 6,000 cars per day. And then when you look at kind of the peak hours in the morning and afternoon when the commuter work is happening, it was, just north of like 600 in the morning and a little more than that, 650 in the afternoon, bi-directional.
Right, so you're basically looking at a 50% increase in traffic flow on Sound Beach.
Well,
Just about, you said 14,000 around the traffic circle?
It's not closed in both directions.
right, so it
All right.
stays open in one direction, so it's about half that, and then,
And there's 2 routes. So
right,
you can
and
go to
then
Stamford or to Greenwich, so you're looking at, 1,500 additional trips.
there'll be multiple people will choose different routes, so you tend not to see quite that exact impact of moving it there.
And what kind of outreach have you had with the community to let them know?
Private property projects tend to be the responsibility of the private entity doing the projects for the outreach. So we've asked them to notify the neighboring properties when they know more when the project's going to be starting.
Okay, so it sounds like the community hasn't been notified yet that there's going to be a closure.
And if you said, I know they said it was 2 to 3 weeks on the north of the Post Road project, part of the project. This part, you said how many weeks was it? 4 to 6?
4 to 6, yes.
If there's no, I know you said you haven't encountered any rock yet. If there wasn't, and say there was a major disruption, I could tell you my cousin Tressa is right in the middle of that block there. I haven't heard anything yet from them. So if there's a major disruption, and would you be able to switch over tonight if there was no blasting? How would that impact you?
Probably not us so much as the last time there was intersection work done at that location, East Putnam Avenue and Ladens Rock by Aquarian, when they were trying to put a new main going north towards Havemeyer. It was done at night, and there was some, the Hyatt complained a little bit.
About the noise?
Yeah, the noise, the rock removal.
Right, and you don't really know if you're going to encounter.
No,
it's a risk.
Especially the intersection, there's a lot of utilities.
It's a risk.
It's going to be a,
Yeah,
it's going to be a challenge.
yeah, no,
I
I
would just, thinking about construction, one option would be to give them like a 7 to 7 work day or 7 to 8 work day, so that there's more time to work in the summer when it's light out. Start early, let them work later if they so choose, and you guys could probably write them a window of time when you think that they could comply with that. And so you're just letting the contractor work more because they're in a closed area. They don't have to deal with traffic control.
try and decrease the time.
Decrease the duration, yeah.
Is that a town requirement, the hours, or is that a private contract issue?
So typically, when they would come in, these projects will require what we call a highway road opening permit. When they come for those, we will put restrictions on their working hours. The town ordinance for working hours is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturdays 9 to 5. We do sometimes, based upon the road and the impacts to traffic, we will restrict that to shorter hours. So if somebody's working on a main road, say, we may shift those around, but that's stuff that we try to work with the contractors on to make sure of. I would not be opposed to having them be allowed to start at 7, work until 6 or 7, depending on the time of day it is, or the time of year it is as well.
And the work's only going to be done Monday through Friday, because I would imagine the summer traffic, having myself go to that beach, is more on the weekends than the weekdays.
Yes, the typical working days are Monday through Friday, yes.
But there wouldn't be,
The work won't affect the traffic pattern, so it's going to be closed, and it's going to stay closed.
yeah,
It was the detour on Sound Beach.
Right, but
it will be in effect, the detour.
the road's going to be closed for the whole duration of that timeframe, so you're going to still have diverted traffic 7 days a week. So letting them work more is only advantageous to shortening duration.
And what's the practice for requiring them to work more, actually, so that it's a shorter road closure? I don't know what the history's been on that.
Well, if that's allowed, we would just tell the contractor when he's bidding to work, he will work from, this time period, because
So if we approved a 4-week closure as opposed to a 6-week closure,
would have to.
you'd have to accomplish the work within the 4-week period. And do you have more specifics other than sometime this summer on the timing of the work, with recognition that, and we just heard from DPW, that the traffic is lighter in July and August, I guess, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, with not knowing exactly what schools are going to be doing too and how late they'll be running, they could be running until June 30th at this point. That could impact us as well on when we would recommend they start. We have the 4th of July fireworks down there as well that impacts things. So we try to work with them on their exact start dates, and I think we try to make sure that it falls within that time frame. I do know that in the event that they do put in that it needs, it's a 4-week, if you guys approve a 4-week, that's your prerogative, and then they would have to just come back to you if they did see 2 weeks in that they'd been working 12 hours a day and it's just not getting done, then don't be surprised if that has happened in the past where we've approved a certain amount of time, but.
The area is called Ladden's Rock.
Yeah, we were surprised.
No. Well, so you basically are asking us to approve the detours, and we could agree maybe 4 weeks, 7 to 7 or 7 to 6, and then you would come back as needed if you needed an extension of that time period?
Yes.
I would ask that there be close communication with DPW to schedule the work permit request and around when it's most palatable for Greenwich residents as opposed to whenever it occurs, because I think, and that you do some outreach to the community, which is an active community group, to let them know that this work is coming. People always prefer advance notice than finding out after the fact by reading an article that a closure is coming this summer. So it's a.
Okay, we can have Aquarian take care of that.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Okay, so with that, is there a motion to approve the detours for Havemeyer and both north and south?
Yeah.
And that one, just for clarification, that one, well, maybe we should just vote on this one first, because that one there, maybe it's a little bit different as far as the timing.
Yeah, Aquarian does not have a firm date, but like I say,
Okay.
it's going to depend on.
So we'll just do this one
Type of fall we
first.
have, how much rain, how low the reservoirs are, and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion out there to approve the detours for a 4-week period for work to be commencing around 7 a.m., going to either 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. This summer?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, it's approved. Thank you very much, Sal. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We have one more on, hopefully.
Okay.
The next item?
Yes, good.
Okay. Aquarian is also in the process of replacing the barge pipeline, which conveys raw water from Barge Reservoir in the city of Stamford to Rockwood Lake in the town of Greenwich. And for a section of that pipeline, it's going to be installed in Farms Road from Taconic, about, I believe, 1,600 feet east. That section of road is very narrow, very winding. There's not enough room for an excavator to trench and maintain traffic. So what we're proposing is that that section, while the main is being installed, be close to traffic. There's going to be some deep cuts. We do have to go under an existing culvert. So we're estimating 2 to 3 months for that road to be closed. There is no Greenwich residents that we're aware of that would be impacted by this road closure. There is one Stamford resident within this section of road, but as luck would have it, he has 2 driveways, so we can maintain access to his house by just keeping one driveway open. So we do one section, and then we move past that, and then he can access it from the other side. And it's going to be a long detour, as you can tell, but there's not too many crossroads or interconnecting roads to allow that.
No, there isn't. And again, I don't know, it's not that, the volume is not that great as the previous item. And how long did you say this would be?
2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months.
Probably closer to 3, yeah.
And have you reached out to any of the residents here yet?
We did reach out to the gentleman that's within the closed section, and he said as long as he has access to one driveway, he's okay. He has no problem with the closure.
And I haven't been up on Farms Road in a while, but I know there were some houses there. On the Greenwich side that leads into Farms Road, again, if they have to cut across there, they're just going to have a bigger detour.
Yes.
Do you plan on reaching out to them and just to let them know that that road would be not available?
Yes, the Aquarium plans are reaching out to them, plus we're going to install signage, variable message signing to alert the public that this road will be closed from this period to this period.
Okay, thank you. And when did you say this was going to commence?
Either late summer or later in the fall. It depends. Aquarium just awarded the contract to their low bidder, and it's going to depend on his schedule, how he wants to do it. But he's going to be starting in the road because he can't work in the ends of the route, which is in the woods, because we can't cut trees till November, so.
Okay.
Is the work going to be, it's not going to change the character of Farms Road at all, is it? It's going to be
No.
subterranean work and?
Yeah,
okay.
it's all going to be buried, and when
Right.
we're done.
And I noticed from your maps, your signage on the detour, essentially on the Greenwich side, looks to be all sort of down in the Stamford section, I believe, right? You may just want to.
Well, we have some signage here as well.
Okay, but not coming from the south up, right? So that people who are going, maybe they'll only make that mistake once, people going up to Conic and thinking they're going to get over to Stamford won't have that access point. They won't know until they'll have
We
to.
do have a signage here that says Farms Road is going to be closed and
Right.
alerting them to detour.
So, but then they have to go up and around, I guess. Did you think about putting a detour notice lower down?
This down
Right,
here?
yeah, I'm just wondering whether you thought about it and obviously discounted it, or,
The issue becomes, you can't try to capture every person that's in a car that's driving towards the area, because you would put signs everywhere, and then you
Yeah.
probably get complaints about
Yeah.
why are all the signs going up. So, we try to kind of design the plan for the person that's never been there and is coming for the first time to get them around the closed road. The people that live here will understand that it's closed after the day it's closed, and they will, self-divert away from a closed road, without having to be directed here that they should go this way. They'll know their neighborhood, and they'll know that they can't go Farms Road, and that they'll pick a different route to get there. I mean, that's what people do. I think that you know, this could be put into, you know, Google mapping and that kind of stuff. They can be alerted to road closures so that the software can help people get around the closures. So
Right, so you are planning on doing the diversionary mapping?
we can ask Aquarian to advise that, but I mean, every construction road closure that I've seen now does that, alerts, you know, the digital mapping. That's happening. So there's ways to help the public get around closures without.
So is that standard practice now in construction projects?
A lot of times, for long.
Well, I'm going to ask
duration,
specifically, are these,
for long
yeah?
duration closures, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen it
Okay.
always.
Excuse me, sir, for the record, may we have your name?
Chris Granatini from Ty and Bond.
I'm sorry, the last name?
Granatini.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, so you're asking us to, for an approval to a closure of Farms Road to allow you to put in place a detour to allow residents to bypass Farms Road for a period of 2 to 3 months, starting in late summer, early fall.
Or fall, yeah.
Okay.
Depending on the schedule, yeah.
Okay,
Motion.
motion moved, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Thank
Right.
you, Chris, thank you,
Thank you.
Sal. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, next item of new business, the Fairfield County Hazardous Incident Response Team Interlocal Agreement, and our town attorney, Amina, is here with Deputy Chief Keck. Good morning, Amina.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
So as you can see, I'm here with Assistant Fire Chief Bob Kick. And we're here to present to you the Fairfield County Hazardous Incident Response Team Interlocal Agreement, which is a mouthful, but for purposes of this meeting, we can refer to it as the FCHIRT agreement, and that's generally what the chief and everybody else has been referring to it as. So Greenwich has been part of this agreement since 2005, or a prior version of it. And essentially, as you can see from my cover memo and from Chief Kick's memo, this is an important aspect of what the town and the fire department does. We participate with 14 other municipalities in Fairfield County with their fire department in the case of any hazmat incidents, other types of emergencies, where Greenwich then, if asked to, will go and provide personnel from the fire department as well as equipment and apparatus. So this is nothing new, but as you can see from our cover memos, that the agreement that has been in place for a very long time now needed some tweaking, needed to be updated, modernized, so that we could have a legal entity known as FCHIRT, which could then perhaps apply for grants, could have its own funding, bank accounts, and things like that. So those are the advantages to creating a not-for-profit entity as is being proposed here. I've spoken with the attorney who drafted the amended agreement. We've gone back and forth on a couple of things. One thing I mentioned to him is there's language in here that says each fire department and municipality will indemnify each other. So we talked about that, and one of the things we try to do is, given our charter language, we ask if we can put in some language that says, to the extent permitted by law. So council who's drafted this agreement has agreed to do that. So that was one concern we had. And so we wanted to get this out to you so that you could take a look. Ultimately, as I said, this has to go to the RTM under the state statutes. So it's still a work in progress. As you can imagine, we're not the only municipality and perhaps not the only legal department looking at this agreement. So the attorney who's drafted this agreement is looking for feedback from all member municipalities, and then we'll try to put it all together, and I anticipate we'll come back to you with another document and ultimately make our way to the RTM. But it's sort of a long-term project, but there's some immediacy in the sense that there's a meeting coming up later this month of the fire chiefs of this organization, and they'd like to hear from the Greenwich Fire Department if there's any major concerns. So that's why we thought we'd bring it to you quickly, and I'll let Bob speak as well.
Sure, thank you. So this basically is just like a first read to get it on our radar and to let you know if there are any concerns that you can relay back to your, the chief can relay back to the other chiefs of the other municipalities.
That's correct. And also just to let you know that this is in the works, and yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any questions or concerns that you have, you can relay to us. They will be vetted with the attorney that's working with Amina, representing the F-shirt, we'll call it, so I don't have to go through the whole acronym again. And then they'll be addressed in the document that we present back to you. Hopefully any issues or questions will be resolved in the new agreement that we're proposing to all the municipalities, so they can be resolved in that one document. It's going to come back to all the municipalities for hopeful ratification. So it is a great team for the personnel. We only have 4 people that participate in it, so it's very limited personnel-wise. It's a $3,000 a year commitment from the town, and the resources that it avails to us are double our response force when it comes to hazardous materials. So for the cost and the investment that we put into for it, we'd absolutely like to maintain it. Updating this document has no material change to our agreement or our arrangement. There's no cost change, there's no cost to us, there's no additional requirements from our community. So really it's just shoring up the legal aspect of the team so they can have their own bank account and get it out of the town of Westport's fire department's bank account and receive grants and that type of thing. So really it doesn't you know, make us more any additional costs or personnel endeavors by updating this.
Thank you. Have you heard back from any of the other municipalities yet? Or?
Nope, everyone's taking this back to their municipalities. We're scheduled to meet on the 19th of this month. I can buy us another month. I'm sure this is short order for you guys to really read these documents and get back to us if you have any questions or concerns. If you don't have any questions or concerns, that's a good thing also. But any of those we bring back, I'm sure they're realizing that they're not going to have all the responses by the 19th, as it's a week away. So if we need another month, that's fine also. But
okay. Okay, thank you.
My question was around the cost, so you answered that. What's our contribution? And
correct.
I think I read it. How in the new entity, how do you select? So yeah, it was uncomfortable for me that the funds are in the other town's fire department.
Correct.
So how do you see that unfolding? Will there be a treasurer and?
They will be able to form, there will be a legal entity at that point and be able to form a legal entity and have their own bank accounts under the Fairfield County Hazardous Incident Material Response.
But how will officers of that entity, you know, be selected and elected and things
It's the
like
fire
that?
chiefs of the participating municipalities have a vote on the board, if you will, and they determine the bylaws and the operations of the team. So we're represented on that chief's. There's actually 16 municipalities in it at this point. 14 need to approve it to ratify this, or half of the 14. So it's up to the fire chiefs how that plays out. But they are obviously going to be able to apply for grants at that point because they will be a legal entity. I'm not sure if it's a 501c3 or I don't want to misspeak. So
It seemed to be.
yeah.
Yes. So there is a set of bylaws that's being proposed.
Okay.
And in those bylaws, each member municipality's fire chief will have a seat at the table on the board of directors.
Okay.
And the board of directors will vote to elect a president, a vice president, and the treasurer. And each of those officers will have their own responsibilities. And in the bylaws, it says that the treasurer is responsible for the management of all the funds. They will have audits as required by law. So this really tightens everything up because right now they're they've been operating successfully, but they've been operating in rather a very loose manner in the sense that they're not a legal entity. But this will really firm up things, and to the extent that there are concerns about will the money be managed. So that's all part of the bylaws, and there will be a treasurer elected by the member municipalities.
Thank you.
With very specific responsibilities.
Thank you.
So I actually had no questions. I want to thank you for the informative and complete package of materials, and I maybe ask that you influence everybody else who submits to provide us with equally good materials, and then we have fewer questions. So thank you for your work on this. If you wanted to call for a vote, I'm prepared to vote for this today.
Apparently, we were ahead of the curve here because the attorney who sent this out, who I've known over the years, was very surprised. He said, "Oh, you're the first municipality or legal department that's called me back." So I think we're doing pretty well here in terms of timing. But I appreciate your time in looking at this.
Sure. I mean, again, I am supportive of it, and so the three of us. So if you needed a vote now.
That'd be great. It'd save us from coming back.
A vote to move forward.
Yes.
And then if there are any changes, we'll come
Yes.
back to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Okay, just going on to the last item today of new business. Endorsement of the Western Council of Government grant applications. The purpose of this is the municipal resolution endorsing and authorizing WestCOG's RPIP, which is Regional Performance Incentive Program, applications by February 29th of 2020. These applications, this just endorses the applications submitted. It authorizes the eligible applicant to apply for funding and to enter into any required contract and/or agreement should the proposal be selected for an award. Any questions?
Yeah, I had some questions about the implications of the award of a grant and a contract. Maybe you can explain the process. So on the 5 items submitted or identified, 2 could have significant impact potentially on Greenwich in that the animal control facilities and the transfer station facilities. If WestCOG decides to consolidate, what's the implication for Greenwich?
Okay. And any other, you have a question?
I had a question, and I was trying to look in our budget book. You guys probably know it a lot more detailed than me. What's our sort of financial contribution to WestCOG? Because it's saying the total cost of some of these plans, and then there's WestCOG providing a 5% cash match. Where do they get their cash from?
Yeah, WestCOG, I've only been to one meeting, and this is new to me. I know Greenwich, I think, gives the second largest contribution behind Stamford to this, but because the use of these meetings are held in Ridgefield, where Mayor Marconi hosts them. But I have some questions on these too. So, Barb,
If you'd like to submit the questions to me, I can research the answers and get back to you for the next meeting.
that would be great. When is there a time frame on this?
They were late in getting this to us, and because of timing, they were looking for a vote today, but since we're meeting next week, if you're comfortable with submitting questions, we can delay the vote until next week.
Yes, thank you, because like I said, I've only been to one of their meetings, and it was a little bit, a lot of it was a little off topic, and a lot of issues discussed really did not pertain to Greenwich. But doesn't mean that they don't in the future, but we'll definitely get back to you with the questions submitted. Thank you. Okay, with that, we have Ken?
We can talk after if you want. There's been a case of corona. Did you want to add anything to what you said before, or does that stand?
Yes, I just saw it now. I believe the person is a New York resident. Seems to be doing well from what I just read, but I haven't read the whole story, so I can only get myself into trouble if I say too much. But again, as we mentioned before, it's going to happen. We're going to see cases here. You can't stop it, but you can slow it down, and you do that by putting in place policies and using a little common sense and working together and communicating. And we will be communicating regularly with the public. So stay tuned. Thank you, Kim. We don't have any appointments or nominations this month, but there are a lot more are coming. So next, we're going to be starting because we have lots of holdovers from before we were sworn in from 2019. So we'll start that process next month. And I see my friend Mark from Byron here. Morning, Mark.
Good morning. Mark Pickle. I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You've been quoted in the paper fairly widely.
A lot.
About, well, I'm talking about the tipping fees. Of $112 per ton tipping fee and a $75 drop fee. When does that get reflected in the revised ordinance?
Good question. So that would be, the RTM has to approve that. And from what I understand, I guess in April, hopefully, they'll be taking that up. The 112 fee per ton, that was arrived at because we had right now it's about 93 or 95 a ton, but we put the $600,000 management fee in there, and it came up to a little over 107.
Oh, I understand. I'm not quarreling with that. I understand it's an all-in. My question was...
It does have to go before the RTM. That was, we were not sure because of some of the language that was in there, and the town attorney opined the other day that it does have to go before the RTM.
Right, I'm not surprised. But does that have to, the ordinance right now only contains wording with regard to pay-as-you-throw?
Yeah.
So does that have to be revised and the tipping fee be put in?
We never approved the pay-as-you-throw
No, we
ordinance.
didn't approve it. That was a proposal.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just a proposal.
So there'll be a new ordinance proposed?
Yeah, Mark, we're getting so many people, even some of the haulers came back and changed their mind and actually embraced the other thing that you don't like, and some RTM members said they were considering it more. Right now, if I had to guess, I would say the more votes are there on the RTM for the tipping fee, if I had to guess. But we have to, that's coming up soon, but we didn't endorse anything yet.
My other question was, is that $112 per ton tipping fee only on MSW?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Recycling would be 65 a ton.
Why would there be any fee on recycling, since pay-as-you-throw, the recycling was free?
No, but the town has to pay for it.
Oh, I
that.
understand
They're not getting, the town has to pay for that.
I understand that.
It's just going to be the 112 on the MSW.
Oh, right, for the haulers.
Right, but the recycling's not free anymore, so it's just a fee that we have to.
No, but to encourage people in the town to do more recycling, be able to go out and tell them, we're putting on a tipping fee for the haulers, and that tipping fee is going to be on your MSW, and the more you put into recycling, the less it's going to cost the haulers, and therefore that allows you to negotiate with the haulers. And there will be a lot, it's interesting.
Recycling or food scraps.
That was another thing. You and I have a meeting in a couple of weeks.
Monday.
Is it this coming Monday?
Yeah.
Oh, time flies when you're having fun. Despite my virulent opposition to pay-as-you-throw, I am very, very enthusiastic about all forms of recycling, as long as it's voluntary. My only issue, and in fact, I've actually had discussions with the folks at Fairco Green Tree on the textile recycling, which I think is a terrific idea. My only, and I'm going to talk to the folks at GRAB. My only objection is I think there are too few places where they're going to put the
bins.
The bins. Mm-hmm. If we're going to do bins, why not put the bins in all the grade schools where everybody goes all the time? And they're not going to put the Fairco Green Tree bin at Holly Hill. They're going to leave the bin from Goodwill. But Goodwill doesn't take the unacceptable textiles. They put it back in our trash, whereas Fairco Green Tree will take everything. So my question would be, why don't we get rid of Goodwill.
Well, Goodwill doesn't just take clothing, they take, items. Believe me, I probably donate to the Goodwill every week. It's more than textiles.
Yeah, but they don't take the bad textiles, they dump it back in our
Yeah,
garbage.
so I wouldn't do it instead of, I would agree, a good idea would be in addition to.
Yeah.
Right, to put them there.
But
And my
not
only,
instead
my
of.
only other comment would be, I love this composting. I assume the composting and the food scrap recycling are one and the same? Or
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned that people can go get their
Kits,
kits at
Sand Bridges.
Sam Bridge.
Yep, on King Street.
No, I know where, I always get my Christmas trees there.
North Street, sorry.
Whatever. I would just question whether, again, why aren't there multiple places where people could get them?
I just was announcing that. You could also get it from Greenwich Green and Clean. And this past weekend, they were doing it at Coscob Fire Department, both Saturday and Sunday. So there'll be more places.
How broadly are those publicized?
It's because it's in its infancy. Originally, they were just talking about doing it a while ago just at Holly Hill, and I spoke with another company, I think out of Ohio, that Stratford, Connecticut uses, and they come around. See, they have, in towns like Stratford and a lot of towns, they have curbside, which we don't have.
Right.
So they just go and pick it up for free. So I suggested, 5 or 6 town locations, but you brought up a great point. We have schools. I think Neighbor to Neighbor does it now, but we have schools, which would be several more places. So I like that idea. So that's something that we certainly can circle back, because we want to make it as easy as possible for people to not have to travel distances. So we'll definitely pass that on, and maybe you want to join Grab.
Oh, actually, I'm going to be offering my services to them.
Good.
I'm all in favor.
Great.
Despite my pay-as-you-throw opposition, I'm all in favor of recycling and make it easy for people.
Great.
And they don't
That's-
charge for those green bins, Fairco, Green Tree, they don't.
No, in fact, they're paying us. They're paying us to put stuff in, and they'll pay us by the pound, I think. There was one other thing I was going to say, but thank you very much.
Well, no, thank you. And I'll circle back with the Grab group and tell them about your,
Oh, they'll be hearing from me. In fact, I've already sent out to Sally Davies.
Perfect.
Who's the secretary there, and
It's
offered my services.
I was on that back in the early 90s. It's a great board.
Right.
Good for you. Thank
you.
I
I'll see
look
you
forward
next
to,
week.
yes.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, with that, I don't see any more business. If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all right, thank you all, and we'll